Composting for Beginners, the ultimate market gardener's guide to building rich, living soil. You know, the difference between an average garden and a thriving, high-yielding one often comes down to a single hidden ingredient: healthy, living soil. And the secret to building such soil isn't an expensive fertilizer from the store. It's compost. That dark, crumbly, nutrient-rich material not only fuels plant growth, but also transforms tired ground into a fertile powerhouse capable of feeding your crops season after season. If you've been buying fertilizers or struggling with poor harvests, composting is the game changer you've been waiting for. And the best part is, anyone can do it, right from their backyard. Why composting is every market gardener's best friend. For a market gardener, composting isn't just about reducing waste. It's about creating a continuous supply of free organic fertilizer that boosts soil fertility and keeps production costs low. Compost improves soil structure, increases water retention, and unlocks nutrients that plants need to thrive. It also supports beneficial microbes and earthworms, turning your soil into a living ecosystem. Healthy soil equals healthy crops, and healthy crops mean higher yields and bigger profits at the market. Unlike chemical fertilizers, compost releases nutrients slowly, feeding plants over time rather than causing sharp spikes that wash away with rain. This stability is crucial when growing vegetables, fruits, or herbs for consistent sales. Plus, by composting, you recycle kitchen scraps, crop residues, and garden waste, turning what many people throw away into your farm's most valuable resource. The building blocks of a good compost pile. Every compost pile has two main ingredients: greens and browns. Greens provide nitrogen, while browns provide carbon. Get the balance right, and your compost will heat up, break down quickly, and transform into that black gold every gardener loves. Now, when we talk about greens, we're really talking about things like vegetable scraps, fresh grass clippings, coffee grounds, and manure from herbivores. These materials are moist, they're high in protein, and well, they fuel the composting microbes with nitrogen. On the other hand, browns are materials such as dry leaves, straw, shredded cardboard, and sawdust. These are rich in carbon, which helps absorb excess moisture and, prevents those foul odors from developing. The golden formula for composting is actually a 2-to-1 ratio of browns to greens by volume. So, for every 2 buckets of dry material, you want to add 1 bucket of fresh green waste. If your pile starts to smell bad, it likely has too much green and not enough brown. But if it looks dry and just isn't breaking down, well, it probably needs a bit more green. Now, choosing the right composting method. Well, there are several options out there. The one you select really depends on the size of your garden, how quickly you want results, and the materials you have on hand. Hot composting is the fastest method, and, well, it's really ideal for market gardeners who need large volumes of compost quickly. A pile measuring at least 3 feet wide, 3 feet long, and 3 feet high is recommended because it generates enough heat for rapid decomposition. Once built, you'll want to turn the pile every 7 to 10 days and water it lightly so it feels like a wrung-out sponge. In about 6 to 8 weeks, you'll have finished compost. Cold composting, on the other hand, requires less effort but takes longer, sometimes up to a year. Simply add organic materials to a pile and let nature do the work. While slower, this method is excellent if you don't have time to turn piles regularly. For smaller gardens or space-limited areas, compost bins, tumblers, or even trench composting, burying waste directly into the soil, can work. The principle is always the same: balance carbon and nitrogen, keep moisture consistent, and let those microbes break everything down. Now let's talk about watering the compost pile correctly. Water is just as important as carbon and nitrogen, Without enough moisture, decomposition slows to a crawl. But on the other hand, too much water suffocates those helpful microbes and leads to rotting. The rule of thumb is simple. Your compost should always feel like a wrung-out sponge, not dripping wet, and definitely not dusty dry. If you're working with a large pile, you may need about 5 liters of water for every 25 kilograms of dry material during the initial setup. After that, just lightly water the pile every time you turn it. If you squeeze a handful of compost and a few drops of water come out, well, you've nailed the moisture level. Turning and aerating the pile is key. Microbes that decompose organic matter really need oxygen. That's why turning your pile is so important. It introduces air, prevents compaction, and keeps the process moving right along. Hot compost piles should be turned weekly, while slower piles can be turned about once a month. Every time you turn, remember to mix outer materials into the center, where the heat is strongest. For gardeners using bins or tumblers, simply rotate or stir the material to achieve the same effect. A well-aerated pile will heat up to between 55 and 65 degrees Celsius, or about 131 to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature range, kills weed seeds and harmful pathogens, leaving you with safe, fertile compost. Troubleshooting common compost problems is just part of the process. Even experienced gardeners run into composting issues from time to time. If your compost smells rotten, it's likely too wet or nitrogen heavy. In that case, add more browns like dry leaves or shredded cardboard. If the pile is dry and inactive, water it lightly and add more greens. If pests like flies or rodents appear, cover fresh food scraps with a layer of soil or finished compost. Another issue you might notice is the pile not heating up. This usually happens if it's too small, too dry, or lacking nitrogen. So add more greens, water it slightly, and make sure your pile is at least 3 by 3 by 3 feet. With the right balance, problems quickly resolve and your compost will thrive. So, when compost is ready to use, you'll notice it's dark, crumbly, and has this nice earthy smell to it. You really shouldn't recognize the original materials anymore. They should be pretty well broken down. Depending on your method, this whole process can take anywhere from 6 weeks to 12 months. For market gardeners, it's a good idea to sieve your finished compost to get rid of any larger undecomposed pieces. Those bigger bits can just be recycled back into the pile, no problem. The fine material you get can now be used on your crops, mixed into potting mixes, or even brewed into compost tea for liquid feeding. Now, to use compost effectively, here's what you do. To enrich your soil before planting, just spread about 2 to 3 inches of compost across your beds and mix it into the top 6 inches of soil. This not only boosts fertility, but also improves the structure, making the ground a whole lot easier to work with. For seedlings, you'll want to mix compost with garden soil in a 1-to-1 ratio for transplanting. It provides a gentle nutrient supply without burning those delicate roots. For liquid feeding, you can make compost tea by mixing 1 kilogram of finished compost with 10 liters of water. Just stir it well and let it steep for about 24 to 48 hours. After that, strain the liquid and use it to water crops right at the base, or even spray it on the leaves as a foliar feed. This method, delivers nutrients directly to your plants and introduces beneficial microbes that really help boost growth and protect against disease. Composting is a long-term investment. For market gardeners, composting isn't a one-time project. It's an ongoing investment, plain and simple. Every batch of compost improves the soil, making it richer and a bit more self-sustaining each time. Over the years, your reliance on chemical fertilizers drops, your soil fertility increases naturally, and your crops develop better flavor, resilience, and nutritional quality. Customers notice the difference, and your produce, well, it stands out at the market. Composting is more than just a gardening technique. It's really the foundation of sustainable, profitable growing. By mastering the simple balance of greens and browns, maintaining proper moisture, and giving your pile the care it needs, you'll never run out of natural fertilizer again. Whether you're managing a small kitchen garden or producing crops for the market, composting is your ticket to healthier soil, stronger plants, and higher yields. If you found this guide useful, make sure to subscribe to Growth Hub's Central Crops and share this resource with fellow gardeners. Together, we can grow healthier food, enrich our soils, and build a more sustainable future one compost pile at a time.